It takes a lot to silence a courtroom, but when Janelle Brown finally stood her ground against Cody and Robyn, that silence felt heavier than any gavel strike. Years of sacrifice, quiet endurance, and constant dismissal led to one unforgettable moment where she refused to be invisible any longer. What started as whispers of unfairness in the family's finances turned into a storm that exposed patterns of favoritism, betrayal, and broken promises that fans had been noticing for years. And in that tense atmosphere, with every eye fixed on her, Janelle showed the kind of courage that doesn't just change a family, it changes the entire story we've been watching unfold on Sister Wives. Hi friends, my name is Sophia, and welcome back to TLC's Sister Wives World. If you've been following the show, you know how emotional and complicated these relationships have become. But what we're looking at today is bigger than family drama. It's about respect, fairness, and a woman finally reclaiming her voice. Before we get into all of the twists and turns that brought Janelle to this breaking point, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. I'd love to know what you think. Did you see this coming, or did Janelle's bold step shock you as much as it shocked Cody and Robyn? Because what we're about to unpack isn't just another Sister Wives storyline. It's the culmination of years of tension, decisions that pushed Janelle to the edge, and the powerful moment when she finally said enough is enough. For a long time, Janelle Brown was known as the steady one in the Sister Wives family. While the other wives often wore their frustrations openly, Janelle tended to keep her emotions guarded, choosing to focus on raising her kids, working hard, and keeping the peace as best she could. On the surface, it looked like she was the one who accepted Cody's decisions without much resistance. But underneath that calm, viewers could see something building. Season after season, the cracks started showing, not in Janelle's loyalty, but in the unfair way she was treated compared to Robyn. The breaking point didn't just appear overnight, it was years in the making. Think back to the many episodes where finances became a flashpoint. Cody would talk about family unity when it came to money, but when it came down to where the dollars actually went, it was painfully obvious that Robyn and her kids were always at the top of his priority list. Fans remember the arguments about Coyote Pass. Janelle wanted progress, she wanted independence, but she was met with delay after delay. Meanwhile, Cody and Robyn secured a large home, while Janelle was left renting, often talking on camera about her insecurity over not having stability. This double standard hit harder when Janelle voiced her concerns in plain, honest terms. She said more than once that she felt like her children were not being treated the same as Robyn's kids. Those moments stood out because you could hear the hurt and exhaustion in her voice. She wasn't looking for special treatment. She was just asking for fairness. And every time Cody brushed it aside, it built toward something bigger. It's impossible to forget the tension during the pandemic years, when Cody's strict rules widened the gap even further. Janelle was put in an impossible position, choosing between supporting her kids' needs and following Cody's demands. She made it clear that her children came first, even if it meant pushing back against him. That defiance wasn't loud or dramatic, it was rooted in her values, and fans could see the shift. Janelle wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. By the time the financial battles reached their peak, the woman who had once been Cody's most reliable partner had transformed into the one person willing to challenge him where it hurt most. And that's why this breaking point felt so powerful. Janelle wasn't just standing up for herself. She was standing up for years of unspoken frustration, for the kids who had been sidelined, and for the principle of fairness that Cody had long ignored. As the seasons moved forward, the cracks in the Brown family became impossible to hide. What once looked like a united front of sister wives slowly unraveled into separate households, competing needs, and Cody's increasingly obvious favoritism toward Robyn. For viewers, it was no longer subtle. The cameras caught it, the wives admitted it in confessionals, and even the kids began to talk about it. One of the biggest flashpoints was always money. The Coyote Pass property was supposed to be a shared dream, a way to bring the family together. But for Janelle, it became a symbol of everything that was broken. She wanted action. She wanted to build. She talked openly about moving forward and creating stability for herself and her kids. Yet every conversation circled back to delay, hesitation, and excuses, mostly coming from Cody. And at the same time, Robyn and Cody were comfortably settled in their massive house, complete with all the security and luxury that Janelle could only dream about. That imbalance was hard to watch. Janelle worked constantly. She carried much of the financial load for years, and yet she never seemed to reap the rewards. On the show, she admitted to feeling insecure about her living situation, about renting while others had homes in their names. It wasn't just about the property. It was about what it represented. Cody's vision of family unity didn't apply equally, and Janelle was the one paying the price. The emotional gap only widened during family gatherings. Viewers noticed how conversations revolved around Robyn, how her needs often became the standard by which decisions were made. Christine spoke out about it, Meri hinted at it, and Janelle tried to keep peace, but her patience was thinning. Her confessional moments became sharper, her tone more frustrated. You could see her weighing the cost of staying silent versus speaking up. Fans also remember the moments when Janelle's kids were treated differently, whether it was during the pandemic debates or in small comments Cody made about loyalty. The favoritism stung. Janelle's children saw it, Christine's children saw it, and it created a divide that no amount of family unity talk could patch over. By this point, the family wasn't just facing normal growing pains. The divide was open, raw, and on display for millions to see. Cody and Robyn seemed to be living one life, while Janelle, Christine, and Meri were forced into another. And within that divide, Janelle's voice grew stronger. She had tolerated years of imbalance, but now, each crack in the family became another reason for her to stand her ground. When Janelle finally reached the point where she was ready to confront Cody and Robyn, it wasn't sudden. It was the result of years of inequality that had been playing out right in front of viewers. Watching the show, fans could see the shift. Janelle had always been the practical one, the one who kept her head down and worked for the good of the family. But when her security, her children's well-being, and her own dignity were on the line, that patience transformed into resolve. The showdown didn't take place in the privacy of a living room argument or a casual family meeting. It became part of a larger, more public struggle that felt like a trial in every sense of the word. For years, Sister Wives viewers heard Cody talk about one family, one pot of money. Yet when it came to reality, Janelle's sacrifices didn't translate into stability for her. That contradiction became the heart of her fight. Think about the tension we saw during the later seasons. Cody pushing the idea that Janelle should give up her rental and invest in Coyote Pass, even when there was no concrete plan in place. He expected her to risk everything, while he and Robyn enjoyed the security of their fully paid-for house. Janelle's frustration boiled over on screen when she called him out directly, telling him she wasn't going to gamble her financial future just to keep up with his dream. That moment was raw, and fans felt the weight of it. It was the beginning of her saying no, and it only grew from there. In a way, every heated argument, every confessional where Janelle expressed doubt, was building toward this larger confrontation. It was no longer just about property or monthly bills. It was about the unfair system Cody had created. Janelle had been part of that system for decades, and now she was the one pulling back the curtain. The power of this moment wasn't just that Janelle spoke up. It was that she did it with calm strength. She didn't scream. She didn't collapse into tears. She laid out facts. She reminded Cody of promises made and broken, and she demanded accountability. Fans described it as a courtroom drama because that's exactly what it felt like. Evidence presented, excuses exposed, truth laid bare. And every time Cody tried to defend himself, the imbalance became clearer. What made it even more powerful was how Robyn reacted. For so long, Robyn had been shielded, protected by Cody's loyalty. But when Janelle pressed the issue of fairness, Robyn couldn't hide behind his words anymore. Viewers saw the emotion in her face, the way her tears flowed. But this time, the sympathy wasn't there. Fans weren't convinced by the crying. They saw it as part of the same pattern that had left Janelle and her children sidelined. The tension reached its highest point when Janelle, for the first time in years, refused to back down. She wasn't arguing just for herself. She was arguing for every child who had been treated as second best, for every promise that had been broken, and for every woman who had been told to stay quiet. That's why the moment carried so much weight. It wasn't just a family disagreement anymore. It was the collapse of Cody's carefully crafted image, exposed in the most undeniable way. The aftermath of Janelle's stand was like a ripple through the entire Brown family. Once she spoke her truth, there was no going back. The tension that had been simmering for years was now out in the open, and everyone had to choose how they would respond. For Cody, it was another blow to his authority. For Robyn, it was a moment of vulnerability she hadn't anticipated. But for Christine and Meri, it became an opening, an opportunity to finally say what had been sitting in their hearts for so long. Christine had already made the brave choice to walk away from Cody, and when she saw Janelle stepping into her own power, she became one of her strongest sources of support. Fans remember Christine saying that Janelle was the one who truly had her back during her own split from Cody. Now Christine was ready to return that strength. In her confessionals, Christine didn't hold back. She openly acknowledged the favoritism, the double standards, and the way Cody's choices had broken the family apart. When Janelle faced down Cody in those tense confrontations, Christine's voice echoed in solidarity, reinforcing that Janelle wasn't alone anymore. Meri's role was quieter, but still meaningful. Though Meri has often seemed conflicted, caught between her history with Cody and her desire for independence, this fallout gave her a chance to align, if only in spirit, with the women who had endured the same neglect. Fans noticed how Meri's tone shifted in her interviews. She stopped defending Cody as strongly as she once did, and her empathy for Janelle became more apparent. For longtime viewers, it was striking. The wives who once seemed to be in competition were now finding common ground in their shared pain. What stood out most in this fallout was the support Janelle received from her children. Throughout the series, they had been some of the most vocal critics of Cody's treatment, and now their voices grew even louder. They reminded viewers that this wasn't just about polygamy politics. It was about real kids who felt left behind, real families who bore the cost of Cody's choices. That layer of authenticity made Janelle's stand even more powerful. For fans, this chapter in the story wasn't just heartbreaking. It was inspiring. Watching Janelle finally draw a line and seeing Christine and even Meri rally around her gave a sense of justice. The women who had once been silenced by loyalty, religion, or fear were now speaking openly, and the audience was firmly in their corner. This fallout didn't destroy Janelle. It liberated her. And in that freedom, she gained something she had been denied for years: the full support of her sister wives and the respect of millions who had watched her journey unfold. By the time the dust began to settle, one thing was clear. Janelle wasn't the same woman viewers first met all those years ago. The quiet, steady partner who often put her head down and endured had transformed into someone who finally knew the weight of her own worth. And that transformation became the real victory. Resolute on didn't come in the form of Cody suddenly changing his ways or apologizing. If anything, Cody doubled down, justifying his actions and clinging to the idea that his choices were always in the family's best interest. Robyn, too, was still visibly shaken, struggling to reconcile her image as the loyal wife with the harsh reality of the favoritism everyone else could see so clearly. But Janelle no longer carried the burden of making their feelings more comfortable than her own truth. She had spoken, and she wasn't going back. For Janelle, resolution came in the peace she found within herself. Viewers watched her admit that she could survive without Cody, that she could build a life where she wasn't constantly left on the outside looking in. In her interviews, you could see a lightness in her face, an acceptance that love shouldn't mean sacrifice without return, that loyalty shouldn't mean invisibility. She chose to prioritize her own healing, her children, and the relationships that actually brought her joy. Christine played a major role in this next chapter. Their bond, already strong, only deepened as they began spending more time together away from Cody's shadow. Fans loved seeing them laughing in interviews, sharing meals, traveling, and proving that sisterhood can survive, even after the marriage that bound them together has collapsed. Janelle finally had the kind of partnership she deserved, not romantic, but supportive, honest, and rooted in mutual respect. Meri, too, continued to inch toward her own independence, and though her path has always been complicated, there was a subtle power in watching her slowly pull back from defending Cody and acknowledging her own needs. For the first time in a long time, the women weren't defined by their relationship with him. They were finding themselves on their own terms. The resolution of Janelle's story didn't need a gavel or a judge's order. It came through her voice, through her refusal to stay quiet any longer, and through the solidarity that formed around her. For viewers, it was a reminder that silence is powerful, but breaking silence is transformative. And that's what made this chapter of Sister Wives so unforgettable. Janelle showed millions of people that you can walk through betrayal, neglect, and heartbreak and still find your way back to strength. She proved that even after decades of being overlooked, you can still reclaim your identity, your dignity, and your peace. So friends, I'll leave you with this. What do you think Janelle's next step will be? Will she continue building her life away from Cody completely? Or will there be more complicated twists to come? Let me know in the comments, because I love hearing your thoughts. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to TLC's Sister Wives World so you don't miss a single update on this story as it keeps unfolding. Janelle's journey is far from over, and together, we'll be here to watch every step. And so, when we look back at everything that's happened, one truth stands out above all the rest. Janelle Brown has finally claimed her voice. After years of compromise, of standing in the background while Cody and Robyn built their own version of family, she chose a different path. Not by screaming or pointing fingers, but by calmly laying out her truth and refusing to let it be buried any longer. That's what makes her story so powerful. It wasn't just about money or property or who gets what. It was about dignity. It was about finally being seen. For fans who have watched since the very beginning, this moment feels almost historic. We've seen the tears, the arguments, the sacrifices, and the broken promises. But now, we're watching a woman rise, not in fiction, not in fantasy, but in reality. And that's why Janelle's fight resonates so deeply. It reminds all of us that silence can hold you captive, but speaking your truth can set you free. I want to thank you so much for watching and spending this time with me. I'm Sophia, and this is TLC's Sister Wives World. If you haven't yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update, and drop a comment down below. Do you think Janelle has finally closed this chapter for good? Or are there more battles still to come? I can't wait to hear what you think. Until next time, take care and keep standing up for your own truth.